Hey, it's Jordan with TYT and TYT Politics, and I am in Sterney Coney Island Diner, and I just made a bunch of friends here in Detroit, here with a bunch of UAW workers. They've ranged from being in the union for decades to a little younger, but all of them have stories about the roller coaster ride that is being a union worker in the auto industry in Detroit. As you know, Detroit was kind of the glory days of the auto industry back in the day before offshoring, Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton, and all of them got their claws on it. We're going to do it kind of amateur-style hot potato. I'll be passing the mic just because I can. So I'm going to start with you. We were talking before, and you currently have some volatility in, not your plant has had some volatility, but all plants seem to be having volatility. Can you kind of talk to me about what people should know? Because from what I heard, the auto industry is coming back in Detroit. It seems like maybe back in terms of profits, but for the workers, it's a different story.
Well, basically, like I was speaking to you earlier about, the auto industry for Detroit is making a comeback in a sense compared to yesteryear when they just sucked, basically, right? So now you have the truck industry, which they say is more fuel efficient, but it's a bigger profit margin on there. So obviously that benefits Sergio or the people in the white-collar class that's upstairs sitting in the glass offices.
Who's Sergio?
Oh, Sergio's the CEO of FCA. So for us, sitting around this table, blue-collar workers, middle class, barely making middle class, it has an effect on us daily because we lose the car production for the United States. It's shipped off offshores. And when that oil market go back up, hey, where did that leave us? We see right now a lot of plants are being retooled, a lot of plants product is being moved around. So most of these folks here sitting at the table were either laid off at one point in time or they've been placed at jobs or plants that's further away from their home. If the oil goes back up, then that's going to leave them without a job again because the product mix is not there. So everything that's happening upstairs in the glass house affects us daily. And we're middle-class people, barely making it. And I say barely making it because actually the middle class is disappearing. It's completely disappearing. You're having a class warfare between rich and poor. And the middle class was a stepping stone to try to get a decent life. So those are my concerns as it relates to wages as it is today.
So just so the audience knows, car companies, for example, they're basically sending offshore. They're basically, for large part, stopping car manufacturing and moving to trucks because of fuel efficiency, profit margin, all those things. So you were talking before to me about you were at a plant. They basically offshored a bunch of jobs, got laid off. What's been your story since?
Yeah, so my experience with Chrysler, I got hired in, and we were building the most fuel-efficient vehicle in the corporation, the Chrysler 200. Next thing you know, market conditions, gas prices dropped, and production dropped with it. And it's so volatile that it got to the point where a lot of people were laid off, and I was switched to a different plant, building Jeeps. And then, it just goes to show how adaptable the auto industry is and how volatile it is. Gas prices drop. Next, they want to switch to building SUVs, and then ship jobs offshore to, tax havens like Mexico, China, and it's this globalization on a big scale. It can affect people on the bottom.
Who here has kids? Raise your hand. Raise your hand high. So you're essentially being used as cogs on a balance sheet by corporations, and the government is essentially creating more deals, trade deals, that basically give the corporations carte blanche to ship your jobs for profit. But can you kind of talk about with children, whoever wants to go first? I'm assuming if you're getting laid off in one place, you got to make money somehow. You might get a plant job for less money an hour away. How is this affecting, the family, and what sacrifices are you having to make if you've been laid off, if you're afraid of being laid off, that kind of thing?
My daughter, she's at Tennessee State. She has a son, 2 incomes, same, both UAW, working. And we struggle daily, especially with layoffs. We struggle daily to make ends meet and to support our children to achieve the American dream. I mean, you have tuition costs, you have room, boarding. And for her son, he stays here in Detroit. So we're supporting him. He's a young adult getting off with a new family. But when you don't have the wage or the time, and I keep on speaking the time to spend with those young adults, then sometimes you have to look down the future and say, what are you really creating here? You're right. Quality of life is supposed to be big in America, should be big in America. But when you don't have the wage in a 2-income home, auto workers, or anybody else in this type of industry to support that, then something's going to give and break, right? She has a grandson. Who watches that grandson? Because now the son is doing the same thing that we're doing.
I keep my grandson because my son is working all this overtime. My son and his fiance is working overtime. So it affects us greatly. You have to help each other out.
I find that more and more younger couples have to live at home or are living in poverty levels and working 40 hours or more, and without being able to make means meet. You know, you can't pay the light bill and the gas bill. Here, this is a couple where both of them are working. They have one child, and they have to stay with me. And they're with me at home, and I'm laid off currently now too after 16 years. And you know, you find yourself where, okay, it's at the point where now I can't make it without them and they can't make it without me. I need them like they need me. You know, it's not a point of us being able to send our kids on their merry way at 18. They go to college and, you know, they get to come home and do this and do that. You're finding your kids are coming home from college and they're coming right back home. You know, there aren't no jobs that are paying enough money for them to be able to pay mortgage or lights or gas or rent and a car note and all of these things. You know, it's nothing worse than building a car that you can't even afford to buy. You know, that's a horrible feeling.
And what do you have to say to people in D.C.? You have people in Silicon Valley out there who say, well, the times are changing, you know, those jobs aren't coming back, and you guys got to get retrained for software engineering and the jobs in demand now.
It's ridiculous because, you know, I've only been with Chrysler. It'll be 6 years in January, and when I started, I had just got my associate's degree and I had started working on my bachelor's in communications. So my goal was not to be an auto worker. That was not my goal, but at the time, my fiance, which he's been with Chrysler for 16 years now, he was a UAW worker, and he's no longer a UAW worker. Now he's a white-collar worker. He's still with Chrysler, but, you know, he told me, he said, you know, apply, just, you know, apply for the job. I had been going to school, and I was like, okay, I'll take that leap. You know, just, I'll, you know, if I get the job, I'll get the job, and I'll just do it, you know, while I continue with my education. Well, I didn't continue with my education. I got sucked in to the auto world, and that's what I've been doing since, and I had temporarily went back to school, but you kind of get sucked into this auto world, and even if you had, you know, gained these skills, you know, doing something else, you have a degree doing something else, you kind of get sucked in, and some people get out, but then there's people like me, and I've been sucked into the auto industry.
I got friends that got college degrees, graduated, and I'm going to my 5th year at Chrysler, yet they're in all this debt enslavement. You know, they got to pay all this college tuition, and they're making, you know, they're underemployed, so it's hard for them to even get a job making, you know, decent money for what they work so hard to get. That's why I believe in the American workforce. You know, I didn't choose to, you know, go to college. I didn't have that, you know, uplifting family to like, okay, here's free college, go to college. And I didn't want to put myself in all that debt, so let me work hard. And now they're telling me to, you know, change my skill level to some in like finance or in technology, which is the only thing that's good for America right now. You know, it's crazy. I can't do that, you know.
Well, also, if who the hell with kids and all this has time or ability to go get retrained or go back to school?
But even when I got here 16 years ago, I came out of school. I actually got my application through school. And at the end of the day, my whole thing was I'm praying to God, let me get this job so I can quit working these 2 jobs. I can make the same amount and still be able to go to school. But then when you get in the auto industry, okay, when they're up, you work 60, 70 hours a week. So you might do this for years. Look at JNAP and all these other places that are where the trucks are selling. I mean, they're working 50, 60 hours a week, and how do you raise 2 or 3 kids and then go to school with that? So your education stops. And now you do this for whatever their flow is, whether it's 8 years, 10 years, 6 years, 5 years, and then you stop. And right now I can go join school, and then I can come back here, and come January, my plan will be booming. And now I'm working 70 hours a week and I have to quit school again right in the middle. I'm owing them money for quitting, and it's a catch-22 to this. You never really find your way out. You don't. A lot of people don't come here with the plan and say, "Oh, I'm going to retire from there." And what people don't understand is that it's very physical. We are really beat up. I mean, you got heel spurs in your feet. Your feet are bad. Your hands are bad. Your wrists are bad. After a good 10 years, your back is bad. I mean, you talk about retooling my mind. What about my body? Because I'm a liability anywhere I go. Anywhere I go, if I tell the truth on my application, they're not going to hire me. I'm a liability. So I can go retool my brain and rethink this, or go and do all this other things that you guys think technology or whatever it is. And at the end of the day, are they really going to hire me? I go spend 4 or 5 years out here getting this other knowledge that you want me to have. And you're going to take the next younger person anyways that's coming out of college. You got these kids coming out of college with no job. For no money, right? So why would you take me, and I'm already seasoned and hurt and beat up, and versus this young person that you can scold and mold and pay less money?
I'm from a partially broken home. I went through a lot before coming to Chrysler, and when I got here, I was happy just to be making the wages that I make, and then I actually seen what some of the people go through. In the auto industry, it's no less than the truth. You don't know what you're getting yourself into unless you are there. Everything else is just from the outside looking in. Everybody's got their own opinion, but the truth of the matter is these jobs hurt. You're doing in some cases you're doing the same job 8-10 hours a day. I mean, your joints are worn, your body's worn. It breaks you. Yeah. So I guess to say that we're overpaid and it is a direct shot at the middle class, because a lot of us come to this industry sometimes with no other choice, and it's just with a hope of something better.
Like with globalization, how can, Donald Trump want to say we're overpaid, and some politicians want to say we're overpaid. How can we compete with the Chinese worker that makes $3 an hour, that corporation doesn't have to pay them, pension, doesn't have to give them health care rights, they don't have to follow the environmental regulations, and they got so much workforce that they don't care. There's an abundance of employees, so why pay them more?
They want to spend their money in building prisons, and because you're making more crime, because you're cutting jobs by sending our jobs overseas. At the end of the day, the American dream was to have a family, have a home, have a job. People don't mind working for what they got. But at the end of the day, you have to provide the work. If you're just going to take our work, and the thing is, we perfected it. We're the ones that do it. We've started it. And now that we've perfected it, you're just going to simplize it and say, hey, we're going to send it over here to China?
I mean, if you look at the chart, productivity has skyrocketed the last 20, 30 years. Wages flatline. But for the wealthy, the 1%, that line's going up. So they built up your wealth. They built up America as the largest economy in the world, even after a financial crash. But there's not a lot of stock put into the actual Americans that are losing their jobs.
America as a whole, I mean, let's go back to the farmers in the fields, right? We talk about immigration a lot of times. Those folks are there who they complain about the immigration is because they say we don't want to do them. It's not that we don't want to do them. It's just that you don't want to pay us a fair wage to do them. And that's exactly what they seem like they're doing with the automobile industry. They're offshoring jobs, right? They're saying the auto worker makes too much money. The auto worker used to be the gold standard for middle class. That used to be the gold standard for middle class. And what they're doing is they're devaluing the job itself. So when you talk about technology, yes, technology is always going to be part of life. It's going to be part of growing. And that we need technology. But you also need people to do these jobs that you guys don't want to do, okay, and don't put any value to it unless you're sitting in a corporate boardroom. And that's where the middle class dream is built on. As she was stating earlier, what about the American worker? We used to be a manufacturing country. Now we're becoming a service industry. to other countries. China is the fastest growing country along with the Asian market, way beyond America, and they have more people. And guess what? That's where the technology is. That's where they're investing in their infrastructure and their education, and they also building on manufacturing. Because all our workers going over there for them to manufacture. Excuse me. So those are the things that we really need to concern when we talk about wages and how do we build a middle class? How do we? Everybody's sitting at this table, and yeah, we all want to hit the lottery and be rich. Everybody here. But we realize that, okay, we might not make it to $1 million, but we do want to make it so it's better for the next generation that come behind us, who is our children and their children, so they can go to college. So they maybe they don't work in the auto industry, or maybe they do become that engineer. But if you keep devaluing the jobs, you keep on lowering them. We haven't had a raise in 10 years prior to this past contract. 10, was it 12? 12 years. Cost of living went up. Inflation went up. Responsibilities went up. Then they come with this great ideal, and trust me, I understand the rationale behind it. Oh, let's get an entry level, and let's start them at this pay raise, and at this pay rate, and let's make them grow over 10 years. Well, cost of living is not going to keep pace with that 10 years. It's going to exceed it.
The only thing that the people at this table have going for them is we're UAW. At the end of the day, we have somebody who's fighting for us for higher wages, and we have somebody fighting for us to be able to go into a plant that's equalization, and then we're getting, and women make the same that men make, and all of these different things. Because my daughter-in-law, $8 an hour in a plant. They're making her work 12 to 13 hours a day. You miss a day, don't come back. It's plain and simple. Non-union. She just gets her first check, and she said that the bottom line is she doesn't even know what day she'll get her check because they have to mail it to her, and they decide to mail it when they want. Here, no, we don't buy that. Our union is going to say, hey, no, these people get paid on Friday, you pay them on Friday, and that's the bottom line to that. So at the end of the day, and now our unions are under attack. So at the point that the only people we have fighting for us that we could build on and try to build better jobs, and somebody that's going to fight for better jobs for us, we're under attack. Not only is the government and everybody else heading overseas, but you're spending billions of dollars to undermine these unions and take them away just so we don't have that either. So at the end of the day, we'll all be $8 an hour. We're probably the last of the Mohegans.
Meanwhile, I don't want to get specifically into the candidates, but generally speaking, you got one person who's a lunatic and another person who is bought off. So at the end of the day, during an election, they sing all the right notes. They mention middle class till they're blue in the face. And then when they get elected, it seems to be this cycle of crumbs changed around the edges. But the overall principle here seems to me to be greed. Corporation, CEOs can't go with 2 yachts. They need 5.
It's almost like an oligarchy where the rich and powerful run and set the rules. When the top 1% controls 90% of the wealth, and 90% of the U.S.'s wealth does not equal, if you had it all in one bank account, it's not equal how much the 1% own. It's inequality. It's crazy.
Donald Trump exhibit that with his taxes. Donald Trump exhibit that with his taxes. I mean, how many of us can get away with not paying taxes? Now, I get it. He did it legally. I get it. The loophole was not created for you, me, her, anybody at this table. It was created for that 1%.
And we were not the middle class. We're the working class. We're not a middle class. We're not a middle class. We don't have anything middle. We are the working class. This is what America makes. America is built off our backs. We are the working class. We're the ones that do the jobs that don't nobody else want to do. And the minute that the economy is failing, who takes the concessions? We do. We're the ones that give back. Why do you think we have tier 2? Because we said, okay, you need to hire new people. You can't afford to. We'll let you do it now at this rate. And we'll take, the 1% didn't take any concessions. They still kept floating on and eating their big steaks and their big houses and driving their big cars. We do it all. And at the end of the day, the whole thing is to liquidate us, get rid of us. And for what? You want us even lower than what we are?